like around my neck. And in doing so, y'all, he like, because I had the long straight wig on, my boy shifted my wig. I was like, ah. And I didn't, I didn't have my elastic band on this one. And I was like, oh shit. This is Dee. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new to this channel, welcome. Well, guys, I am back with a story time. I went on a date with this guy I met online on Match, and baby, this date, this guy was a trip. And I wanted to share it with my girls. But before I get into it, you know the drill, y'all. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you are aware whenever I upload a great new video just like this one. Girl Talk Live will be back. Never fear, it will be back. But I am working on something for you guys, something new for 2022. My online dating adventure continues, as you can see, as you will hear by the story time. And you guys seem to enjoy these types of stories and my experiences. And I'm going to, keep it going and let you guys know what's good because, baby, it's a wild world out there. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I met this guy online. He was what? He's like 62. He is a pilot and lives in, well-to-do area, honey. You know how I do. So, we talked. We had a really great first conversation, and it went really well. Liked his personality. Really liked his personality, and we just had a really good conversation. Okay, he was very outgoing. He had been married for like 30 some years, divorced recently, which to me is like, kind of a, I'm saying red flag, but when someone who is recently divorced, especially after a marriage like that, they want to be out there for a minute. That's just the truth, when there's something wrong with that. You guys, you got to get out there. You can't just reject everybody. Even if and you got to get out there, just have fun. That's my objective right now, you guys, just to have fun and just have experiences. Okay, so we decided on a Mexican restaurant. Now, normally I always have them take me to a very high-end restaurant, but this was like kind of a mid-level restaurant. I mean, it wasn't a dump or anything like that. It was a nice Mexican restaurant. It was, almost 5-star reviews near my mom's house, and I'm like, okay, I've never been there before. I'm like, okay, well, we set up our date and everything like that. So we were supposed to meet last Thursday. On the way there, I was running a little bit late. Surprise, just only like maybe 15 minutes. So I called him because he was driving from a little bit further away than me. So I called him and I was like, hey, I'm running about 15 minutes behind. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you called because I couldn't find my phone. I'm like, oh, okay. But he had one of those phones like in his car. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll be there in about 15 minutes. He said, okay, I'll be there in about 10. So I'll be there just, shortly before you will. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get there and he had already arrived before me, and he was in the bathroom. The greeter, she was like, hey, are you, meeting someone here? I'm like, yeah. And she said, I think he's already here. And she's like, he's in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, okay. She said, well, do you want to be seated? And then he can, I can just bring him over to the table. And I was going to say, sure, whatever. But just as I was saying, sure, he walked out of the bathroom. And, but before he walked out, she's like, oh, he was there, he's here early. I'm like, I looked at her and said, like, she's a sugar daddy, because she saw him and it was like an older white man, and she just kind of laughed and she's like, yeah, I kind of thought so when I saw you. So he came out of the bathroom, y'all, and he came out and he was like, oh, so happy to see me. And he kind of like put his arms like around my neck. And in doing so, y'all, he like, because I had the long straight wig on, my boy shifted my wig. I was like, ah. And I didn't have my elastic band on this one. And I was like, oh shit. And then I kind of like pulled away from him. He didn't really know, like my hair, but it was obviously over familiar for someone I did not know. I don't do all that, for a stranger I do not know. So I'm like kind of pulled away. I'm like, hi, whatever. And then she like showed us to our table. Now, immediately, you guys, I could smell the alcohol on his breath. Now, it wasn't like the guy reeked of alcohol, but it was enough to where I could smell it. So I know he had been drinking prior to our date. So we get to our table, right? And you meet someone, you sit across from them. This mug wanted to sit next to me. He's like, oh, I want to sit next to you. And I'm like, and then so he sits down and he's like kind of like touching like my thigh, talking. He's like, oh, so you're so beautiful, blah, 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 touching my thigh. And I was like kind of moved away. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move to the other side, or you can, because it's hard to talk like this with side to side. And he was like, oh, okay, no problem, no problem. So he moved on to the other side. You guys, don't be afraid to speak up. If something's making you uncomfortable, speak up. I don't have a problem with speaking up or even walking out on a date. But, okay, so he moves over on the other side and we just start talking. Now, you guys, this guy was drunk, but he was like very jovial. And I'm like, you know what, screw it. I already knew I was never going to see this dude again. But you know what? I'm here. I want to taste these margaritas. The food is supposed to be good. And hell, I'm not paying for it, so what the hell? And I know this guy's fun. If nothing else, he's fun. I know I'm going to have a good time. Little did I know, y'all. So we're sitting there and, I'm doing my 1 meal a day thing. So I had not eaten anything. I mean, like literally I had not eaten a thing. And so they had, they bring out the chips and the salsa. And I'm like kind of snacking. We're talking or whatever. And he had been there before. That's my first time there. And I told him, like, dude, I haven't eaten anything today, so I'm going to, want to, order something. He's like, oh, okay, good. We can order whatever you want, but, I just want to talk for a little while. I'm like, okay. And then we ordered margaritas. You guys, these margaritas, the margaritas were freaking bomb. You hear me? Bomb. That was the most bomb thing about the date. So we get our margaritas, and it's funny because I was like drinking mine, that margarita was hitting, and then his was just sitting there. And I'm like, well, why isn't he drinking? Baby, you already been drinking before. And I mentioned it to him. I'm like, oh, it sounds like you got a head start. And he's like kind of, glazed over. He said, well, just a little. So after about, a couple minutes, I'm like, look, these margaritas are so good. But these, I can tell, these are the ones that will catch up to you quickly. So I'm going to have to get, something to eat soon. I mentioned it again. The waiter came over, the server came over. He was like, are you guys ready to order something? And he's like, well, not yet. I'm like, okay, well, shit, I can just sip on this margarita. But I don't want to get too, because this margarita, they put their foot in this margarita. And I wasn't trying to get, drunk. But it was because I hadn't eaten anything. So we chit-chatted for a while. He told me, we talked about our sort of dating experiences and stuff. And he told me about the last time he was there. Now, this is when things get real interesting. Now, he had been dating this woman. She was a Cubana. That's what we'll call her. She was Cuban. A Cubana is what he called her. Cubana. So we'll call her Cubana. He had been dating her, and they came to this restaurant. Now, this particular restaurant has a drag show. Like once a month, they have a drag show, which apparently is really popular. I had no idea. So they came to the drag show. The two of them, they were having a good time drinking. And apparently this drag show thing is a big deal. It's like a brunch. You get money. You put money into their clothing, like strippers or whatever. It was a big deal. And obviously, since this guy was a drinker, he was having him a good old time. Too good, apparently, because his Cubana started questioning his sexuality. She was like, are you into transgender people? Are you gay? Because you're having like too good a time. And he was like, but I was playing a part. He kept saying, I was playing a part. I'm like, well, what do you mean you were playing a part? He said everybody was partying, having fun, and like, messing around with the drag queens and stuff. And just, obviously they're dressed like women and, just having a good time. And I guess he was having too good a time for her taste. And she got really mad. Now I asked him, I'm like, okay, she's like questioning your sexuality. And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, since he was being all forthcoming, and I asked him, had you and she been intimate prior to that? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, and she said, questioning your sexuality despite that. And he said, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we finally ordered our dinner and we were talking, but he kind of stayed on the topic of this Cubana, this Cuban woman. And he was telling me all about like they had this sort of volatile relationship, how she was jealous and she was insecure and all this stuff. And but he seemed to me like he you know, kind of liked her still. But she's like, she's pretty, but she's not as pretty as you and blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever, dude. So our food came and, we're chit-chatting away. Now, one of the things he had told me when we were like texting and talking was he had gone on a trip to St. Lucia, like an all-inclusive trip with a woman, like, and he met online, and he felt like, oh, well, maybe it was too fast because he'd only known her for about 5 weeks. I'm like, was this the Cuban chick? So he proceeds to tell me that he and the Cuban woman, he took her to like St. Lucia for this all-inclusive. And I'm like, okay, but what about the whole questioning of your sexuality thing? I mean, I'm assuming you guys were intimate on this trip. He's like, yeah, but she continued to question it. I'm like, So he kept saying that she kept, sort of questioning his sexuality, even though he was completely straight. And so he's, we just started talking about, this Cuban chick and what happened with her. I'm like, well, what's going on? I mean, at this point, like, I knew I was not going to see this guy again, and he was so, he was such a blabbermouth and so jubilant and just having fun. I'm like, well, shit, tell me a story. What's going on with this chick? Because it seemed, really interesting. But because she kept harping on this, and because of some other things, I guess he said she had some sort of, she had a really like kind of a volatile temper. Because of that, he was exploring other opportunities. He was on this dating site called Zeus. Okay, I never heard of it, Zeus. And he was talking to people there because he really didn't think, this was going to go anywhere, even though he liked this chick. She was volatile and whatever. And she kept, basically saying, dude, are you gay? And they had like broken up briefly, but they got back together again, and they spent this weekend together. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they spent together, doing the thing, whatever. And it was all good. Or so she thought. So they had spent that weekend together, and, she had gone home. But despite spending the weekend together, he had set up a date with a woman he met on Zeus that same day, that Sunday. When she left, he, got dressed, shower, whatever, and then he went out to this bar to meet this woman he met on Zeus, despite spending the entire weekend with a Cubana, right? So he gets to whatever bar he went to, and he's drinking, and, he invited her, but he says he wasn't sure if she was going to show up, but she did. And this was a white woman that he had met on Zeus. So she showed up. And they started drinking and having a good old time. Now, let me go back to something, because while we were talking, he was married, and he was saying how he's a pilot, and we were talking about, how pilots are and all the wild things you hear about pilots and women and everything like that. And I asked him, I'm like, well, I mean, since he was being so honest, I'm like, well, have you ever did you ever cheat on your wife? And he said, yeah, once, when he's like, after 25 years of marriage, he cheated. And he cheated in Phoenix with this black woman. And he had, ever since then, that has been his preference. Black women, ethnic women, dark-skinned women. And he said that was the first time he, cheated on his wife. And he's like, they were 25 years in. Now, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. That was his first, who knows? But I mean, dude had no reason to lie. He was telling me everything else. So, I mean, why lie? So, yeah, he said he cheated once with this black woman in Phoenix. And he said it rocked his world and turned him out. Okay. So, fast forward, you guys. Now we're back at the bar where he's meeting this woman, this white woman. So, they're there for a while. And he says he got so wasted. He got so drunk he couldn't even drive home. Not only could he not drive home from the bar, this stranger, this woman he had never met, drove him home in his car, right? And he was so drunk, he couldn't even tell her his address. He was so drunk that, they drove around for a while because he couldn't even tell her where he lived or to put it in the GPS. So, she could use that to get to his house. That's how drunk he was. You think the dude has a drinking problem? Yeah. So somehow they finally make it to his home. So they get into his house and they go into his kitchen. And, she proceeds to, pleasure him in the kitchen, right? Now, Cubana is, as he says, the jealous type. She's a jealous type of chick, okay? And he said that somehow she has a tracking device on his phone. Yes, the girlfriend Cubana, he only dated for like maybe 3 months or whatever, but she was so like jealous and possessive. Like she has a tracking device on his phone, which clearly he wasn't worried about since he did the do and went to this bar with this chick. And so Cubana kept calling him while he was out at this bar. And despite spending like the whole weekend with Cubana, he didn't respond. So Cubana lost her shit and she like used that tracking device to try to find him. She went to go look for him, right? So he is back. I'm back to the house, at his house in the kitchen. This chick is on her knees doing the damn thing. Now, this is the first date, y'all. He's telling me all of this. I don't know this dude from a hole in the wall. I'm just listening to this, you guys. I'm listening to this trying to remember everything so I can come back and do this story time. Because, I mean, you can't make this shit up. So he's in the kitchen. She's on her knees. This white girl's on her knees doing the damn thing. Cubana had used her tracking device on his phone to track him at his house. She went, I guess, around the house. She was looking for him. She couldn't get in. I mean, people are fucking crazy. She was like looking for him, walking around his house. And she actually saw, like, she went by the kitchen and saw the kitchen window. And lo and behold, what did she see? You got it. She saw this white girl on her knees, yes, pleasuring him. And she lost her shit. She's like, she was banging on the kitchen window or whatever. And he's like, oh my God. He went and he like opened the door. And of course, the white girl had no idea who this woman was. And she's like, I'm his girlfriend. What the fuck are you doing? And they end up getting into this fight, he said, calling each other, you effing whore. Who are you? And she's like cussing him out. Cubana's cussing him out, cussing her out. The white girl is cussing her out, like, who are you? Blah, 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 blah. And they actually got, it escalated from a verbal altercation to a physical one. They got into a fight. These grown-ass women got into a fight over this drunk, lush, cheating-ass dude that he had to break them up. Now, I'm trying to remember, you guys, who went home. Was it Cubana who left? And I think it was Cubana who finally left because the girl had driven his car to his house, right? So it was the Cubana who left, stormed out, cursing, going off. And then the girl stayed or whatever happened there. So apparently day or two, whatever after, right, he got in touch with Cubana, who was, needless to say, livid and, hurt. They, because they were involved at this point, and he had just spent the entire weekend with this chick. And he apologized, whatever, said he was drunk, all this stuff. But she was like, no. I can never get that image of her on her knees, like doing her thing with you out of my head. Cubana was like, he was dead to her. Guys, I am cracking up. My mouth was like, what? And again, trying to remember everything to tell you guys, because I'm like, this is going to be a story time for your ass. And so, you guys, I think that was pretty much it in terms of his drama, his saga with these chicks. I'm not sure what happened after that. I know Cubana is done with him. I don't know whatever happened with the white girl. I think they're done. I don't think she's seeing him anymore either. But I guess the moral of, okay, so the end of the date, you guys, we closed the joint. I mean, he was fun. I had no problem with him. He's not for me, and I'm okay with that. There was no reason for me to trip. We left, and he walked me to my car, and we said goodnight. I think he wanted to kind of lean in to give me a hug, but I was like, no, it was nice meeting you. And I got into my car, and we're both like, hey, text me when you get home. Just, make sure we both got home safely. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And, you do the same, which we did. He left me, he texted me, like, it was a pleasure to meet you. I really enjoyed meeting you, had fun, blah, blah, blah. And I said, same, it was a pleasure to meet you as well. This was Thursday. Haven't heard from him since, haven't spoken to him since, which, he knew. And I think he probably woke up the following morning like, oh, shit, I cannot believe I told her all of that. And I told him, you guys, I'm like, you are very, very lucky that she didn't do anything besides, of course, what she did to you. You're very lucky that she didn't rob you or do anything crazy to you or have somebody come in. She was part of something, have somebody come in while you were passed out and, rob you. He was very lucky. She was very lucky that she, first of all, didn't get killed by this Cubana chick. And we're all grown. You're going to do what you want to do and all this stuff. And that's fine. That's your choice. And I can sit here and say, y'all don't do whatever. Keep your legs closed. But we're grown. You're going to do what you want to do. But you have to know that, you have to be very much aware of the choices you make and the potential consequences, Don't go out there getting drunk with these people that you don't know. Don't be going home with strangers, y'all. I did a video on this young girl, and I'm going to link it below, and, who ended up, she went on a Bumble date. They ended up at her house, and baby, she ended up going to glory. But you guys, there are some wild, crazy people out there. There are a lot of promiscuous people out there. Protect yourself. Protect your, these diseases are real. And another thing I'm going to say, you guys, as a person who dates interracially, and primarily white men, you guys, I'm going to say this and take it for what it's worth. It seems that, and I've noticed this historically, white men drink, you guys. And if you look at my other video, I will link that below from my big online dating adventure. What was it? My date was batshit crazy. I was a drinker too. So, and I'm not trying to, make generalizations, but, if you're going to date white men, you need to be aware of this. I'm supposed to have a date on Thursday with this guy, really nice steakhouse. And I actually don't think I'm going to go. I'm not really feeling him. This guy, I don't know. But yesterday, like we were like texting, exchanging messages, and he told me like, well, we're gonna have reservations, but he wants to meet at the bar first. For like, we'll do at the bar for a while, and then go to dinner, and then do dinner. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't sit at bars, you guys. That's just one of my things. I don't sit at bars. My dad would turn over in his grave. His daughter sitting at a bar like some dude knocking him back. So I told him that I don't sit at bars. And he's like, oh, that's fine. We'll just, we can just do dinner, but I'm going to get there early. And I'm thinking to myself, this mug is going to get there early just so he can sit at the bar and drink. And I'm like, is he going to be half lit before I even get there? By the time I get there, he's going to be lit. And the funny thing is, you guys, is this particular guy, he had just gotten back from Napa Valley, and he came back with like a case and a half of wine. We were talking like, well, what are you going to do with all that wine? Well, he's like, eventually I'm going to drink it. I'm like, and he owns like some kind of brewery or no, a Scotch, something in Scotland he owns. I'm just telling you what my experience has been with dating, white men. I'm just telling you what it is. Not all of them, of course, but all right, you guys, so I'm back, and you guys, I'm just getting dressed for another video that I have to film, but so because I'm filming it, I thought, what the hell, let me tell this quick story. Just take things for what they're worth. Have fun. Don't take this so seriously. Do not have any big expectations. Be open to the possibilities, of course, but you're going to meet some wild and crazy people. Also, protect yourself. Do not feel hesitant to say no. Do not feel hesitant to leave if someone does anything to make you uncomfortable, like he did when he sat next to me and touched my thigh. Do not be afraid to set your boundaries and to say no. It's really important, you guys. Do not feel like you have to be nice. That's how a lot of people end up in a bad way. Women, they feel like they have to be nice. You never feel that you are stuck because you go out to dinner with someone that you have to stay there and be victimized, because you don't. I mean, think about that. The only one telling you that is you. If he's not holding a gun to your head, you can get up and walk out. That's it. The only one telling you that you have to stay there is you. Keep that in mind. You can get up and walk out anytime you want, unless you tell yourself you can't. Girl Talk Live will be back, you guys. It will be back in 2022, but I am working on something new for you guys. The online dating adventure continues, and you guys seem to enjoy that. So I'm going to come back with, a little more, something a little bit different to share with you. But yeah, you guys, your girl is having a good old time. She's not pressed. She's not bothered. I'm enjoying myself. I got my roster going, and you know what? Y'all want to spend money on me, take me out to dinner. I'm all good because I know what my boundaries are, what my limits are, and I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do. I'm not going to get drunk, put myself in any kind of situation I don't want to be in. You got to be smart, you guys, and you have to be, feminine, but you also have to have, some sense to stand up for yourself and not feel obligated to do anything you don't want to do. But you guys, just take it for what it is. I mean, this to me, this was just a fun date. It left me with a good story to tell. And then it's like, bloop, on to the next. Don't take these things so seriously, you guys. Enjoy yourself. Don't expect much. And just, have fun. That's all I'm doing right now. Have fun. If something comes of it, great. If not, que sera. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story time, and if you did, thumbs it up, you guys. Thumbs it up, and do not forget to follow me on this channel, as well as my second channel, Pretty and Things, and of course follow me on Instagram. And the links to everything will be in the description box below. So until next time, mwah.